It is 6 p.m., March 23rd, 2015, and time to get this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD underway. I count 6 board members in attendance. Dr. Keys is absent. So we do have a quorum, correct, Mr. Overfeld?
Yes, sir, we do.
Let the record show that a quorum of the board members are present, that this meeting has been duly called, and notice this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This time, if you'd stand for opening ceremonies. First, a moment of silence. And now the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Now that we are officially called to order and underway, that brings us to agenda item 4, recognitions. The first one is A, recognition of Del Rio Middle School band students that participated and placed in the TMEA All-Region Competition. Mr. Nunez.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, I'm here to inform you of the accomplishments of some of our fine arts students. The students competed in UIL competition, TMEA, in recent months. So our first group to be recognized is the Del Rio Middle School, which under the direction of Mr. Cisneros and Mr. Brijava. They placed in 39 students in the TMEA All-Region Band. They competed against Eagle Pass Junior High and also Memorial Junior High School in Eagle Pass in January. I'm going to have Mr. Brijava come forward at this time and give us a little bit more as to the process of this auditions and contest.
Good evening. I just want to explain to you a little bit about the audition process. Everybody, other students get the same music, like other flutes will get the same music, clarinets and so forth. And on January 31st, we went to Eagle Pass. There was about 200 students there competing, and our middle school did very well, placing 39 students. And everybody goes and plays the same music in front of judges, and the judging panel will determine what chair the students will be placed in. So I'm very proud of these students, and the following, in about like 3 weeks later, they went back and performed a concert by these students that placed in the region band. So we have one of our students that prepared a statement, and she wants to read it.
Hello, my name is Leslie Castro, and I play saxophone in the Del Rio Middle School Symphonic Band. I am proud to say that I was one of the first chairs out of the 9 we made at the TMEA region band auditions. I am also very proud of everyone who went and competed, because we have all worked very hard to get at the level that we are. Being one of the 2 drum majors, I feel the need to push the band and myself to be the best that we can be. The band would like to thank our great band directors, Mr. B and Mr. Cisneros, and the cooperation of some of the band students that stay after school almost every day. I also want to say that it is an honor to represent Del Rio Middle School, San Felipe Del Rio CISD, and the city of Del Rio every time we go out of town. We always get compliments on our behavior everywhere we go, and that makes us feel good about what we do and encourage us to keep going. Thank you for your time.
And that's just the kind of student we have in our band program at Del Rio Middle School, and we're very proud of them, all of them. So congratulations to our band students, and thank you for having us here today.
As I'm looking at the results, we actually play students in every section: flutes, clarinets, bass clarinet, alto sax, baritones, trumpets, French horns, trombones, baritones, tubas, and even percussion, and a lot of first chair players. Congratulations to all the directors and the students as well. Thank you. Thank you all again. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Okay, that brings us to agenda item 4B, recognition of the Del Rio High School band students that participated and placed in the UIL solo and ensemble competition. Mr. Nunez?
Our Del Rio High School band participated in UIL Solo Ensemble in February, and actually we host our own contests because we have a lot of students that are always competing. Our students acquired 12 solo medals, 160 small group ensembles, and 99 large group ensembles for a total of 271 first division medals. At this time, I'd like to have Mr. Rios come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Nunez. We're very pleased with the work that our students have put forth. That's a whole lot of medals that we have that they actually earned, and it's not an easy test because they have to be playing in front of a judge, and they have to meet a standard, have to meet a standard of excellence. And if they don't receive a first division, well, they'll give them a 2, or sometimes could be a little lower, but we strive that they always receive that first division. And so 271 of our medals that we were able to get as a group is a great accomplishment for the kids. We have Andres de Leon. These are our officers, representatives. Andres de Leon, Christian Torres, Roy Lopez, Kaylee Herzog, and don't tell me, Jacob Martinez, Marta Mendoza, Hannah Moncada, excuse me. She was a student I had about 5 years ago. Hannah Esquivel, and Karen Rios. So we're very pleased of our students, and for again you guys for being officers and for being the leaders of our mighty Ram band. Okay. And the reason we have this young lady over here in her mariachi traje is because there was a statewide competition that's open to all students, high school students. And I'm very proud to say she's actually my daughter as well. And so I'm here as a director and parent, but she was actually selected to be a part of the second annual Texas State group that's going to be formed. And so what they do is that they have to send in an audition, and they have to send in a recording in a video of themselves. And out of all the entries that they had, she's actually one of the ones that qualified to play on the trumpet. I'm hoping that she'll get a chance to sing as well as part of this elite group that again was through a pool of candidates from throughout the state of Texas. And so, as a proud parent, I commend Ms. Karen Rios. And I also want to thank my staff, because without these guys, I mean, it'd be a whole lot harder to get these things done. As a matter of fact, today it was announced that Mr. Morales is actually the Teacher of the Week there for Del Rio High School, so through the FCCLA. So, Mr. Morales, And this is selected by the students, so I guess when you must be doing something right for the kids to, even consider, their band director. He's in charge of our third group right now, and also Mr. White. He's in charge of the second band. Mr. White also helps out at high school. And of course, you saw all the middle school kids with Mr. Brijalo and Mr. Cisneros. We also have Mr. Grange and Mr. Bassler working down at the sixth grade. So it's everybody's helping, and makes my job easier because it makes my job easier. I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Mr. Nice.
Once again, congratulations to all the students and their directors for the hard work and accomplishments. Thank you again. Thank you, board.
Congratulations. So I think that actually took us through item C as well, right? Because you recognized Karen Rios. Okay, so that brings us to agenda item 4D, recognition of First Tech Challenge Mentor of the Year, Mr. Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. The recognition of the FIRST, and FIRST stands for Inspiration, Recognition in Science and Technology. The Compass Award recognizes an adult robotics coach who has provided outstanding guidance and support for a team throughout the year. Nomination for the Compass Award came from team members via a 40-second video submission, highlighting how the mentor helped them become a champion team. You will see a video in a couple of minutes that was created by the students, the robotics students, for this award. 70 mentors were nominated for this award during the Alamo Championship Tournament, and our very own Mr. John Reed, Del Rio Middle School CTE engineering teacher, E-Cadet lead teacher, and robotics coach, is this year's recipient of the 2014-2015 Alamo First Tech Challenge Mentor of the Year Award. So, Mr. Reed. Along with Mr. Reed is his students, just as small. Mr. Reed actually likes to take a challenge. He went from actually developing 2 groups to 3 groups, and this year he has 5 groups. There's 50 members in robotics, along with he took another challenge this year by having the first regional competition for FTC at Del Rio Middle School, inviting multiple schools to participate. So he's done an outstanding job. Yes. And now we'll see the video that was actually created by the students. For the district, again, congratulations, Mr. Reed.
Congratulations.
Good job. Congratulations.
Good job.
Take a picture right here with you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 4E, presentation of shadow box to the family of Chief Raymond Griffin Haynes, Dr. Rios and Mr. Guadalupe Costilla.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian. If I could ask Amy and your mom to come to the front, and your family. I'm going to read something, and then I'd like for Mr. Costilla to make the presentation. We have the officers up here at the back also, so we can all get in the picture. Board President, members of the board, Haynes family. The presentation of a shadow box reflects the achievements and accomplishments of a person being honored, symbolically creating a shadow of their career. It is with great honor to present a shadow box to the family of Chief Raymond Griffin Haynes for his service to the San Felipe Del Rio CISD in the capacity, first of Board of Trustees member from May 15, 1989 to May 21, 1990, and then as a member of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD family on March 31, 1994, as a police chief. He served in this capacity until his death on January 13, 2015. Chief Raymond Griffin Haynes obtained various law enforcement licenses and earned awards for his bravery and heroism throughout his law enforcement career. He will be greatly missed. Thank you to the Haynes family for sharing your father, your grandfather, your husband, and friend with us. We appreciate his years of service. He'll be greatly missed. And now Mr. Chief Costilla will present the shadow box.
Okay, back to the agenda. There's nothing under agenda item 5 or 6. So that brings us to agenda item 7, reports. A being attendance and discipline report for the 4th 6 weeks. Dr. Garza, Ms. Garcia.
Again, Mr.
Rios.
Garabedian, we included the report on, with the board packet for both of these. We do have a presentation. Attendance is actually up this year as compared to last year for the 6 weeks, for 3 campuses. But if you'd like for us to present, or you have any questions, whatever pleases the board, sir.
We just have questions. That's what we've been doing recently instead of a full-blown presentation, or do we want a presentation? I just have a quick question, whatever the board wants.
Questions is fine.
Questions?
Yeah, just.
Okay. My only question was, following on to that statement, that there are 3 schools up compared to last year, but the entire district is up, right? You're the math guy, so explain that to me, because I don't
Well,
know.
it's not necessarily by percentages that you take an averages by students that you take
Okay.
an average, so that's why the percentage is up.
Okay. Didn't make any sense to me, but, okay. Lozano?
I have one question too. That first slide shows Darrell High School. It looks like for this year it's 96.34,
Yes, ma'am.
but the ranking by the school shows them at 93.72. So is it
The high school-
96 or 93?
Let me check.
This first sheet shows it for the 4th 6 weeks, so I'm going to guess that this is the year-to-date, maybe?
It is, yes, ma'am, it's year-to-date. I apologize, the header there does not say that. It is year-to-date. And then the first chart is the 6 weeks.
Thank you. Because they did very well this last 6 weeks, so thank you, Dr. Sally.
Also, the freshman campus did get an increase.
Thank you.
Other questions on the attendance report or the discipline report?
And since I said the freshman campus, I better say the other 2, which is Buena Vista and Irene Carter.
Okay, that brings us to the agenda item 8. The consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull an item for discussion, or are there any questions about any part of the consent agenda? No questions? I had a couple questions about the financial statements, but I was just confused. Plus, if I had showed up to the finance committee meeting, I wouldn't have had the questions. Can, real quickly, Ms. Valdez, could you help me out here? Okay, on page 32, you know, this paper, the one that's the summary sheet.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. So, comparing this year to last year, from the general fund budget, we're actually at 35%, or 46.2% with our committed budget versus 33.41% in February 2013, or 45.3%. So we're up by a point, which is a lot of money, right? About $700,000-800,000. So why anything particular has caused that?
Well, the one area where we're trending favorable is that we've had vacancies. So if you see the payroll cash flow, you can see some favorability there.
Okay. Okay, that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions on consent? Okay, if there's no questions for the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda? Ms. Lozano has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Okay, there's, Dr. Rios suggested, the board might want to consider, before we move on, we do have a presenter who's from out of town, and under agenda item 11A, it's consideration to approve the July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2020 memo of understanding between Healthy Futures of Texas and San Felipe Del Rio CISD to study big decisions with ninth grade students. Since our presenter is from out of town presenting, would the board object if we move that item up so we can at least have the discussion and maybe the doctor can get on her way when she's through? Dr. Rios?
Would you like for Mr. Overfeld to read the donations first or after?
We'll do it after. We're already, yeah, we'll come back to it in a moment. Okay, so we're going to move that item up, and no one objects. Okay, so we're going to move up for now to agenda item 11A, consideration to approve the July 1st, 2015, June 30th, 2020 memo of understanding between Healthy Futures of Texas and San Felipe Del Rio CISD to study big decisions with ninth grade students. Dr. Garza, you're presenting and you're introducing our presenter, correct?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board, we have today Dr. Riolini, the way you present it or pronounce it. We've always had an interest to figure out what do we do with students that are in a situation where we don't want them to be. So Dr. Riolini came to us with this grant that is available for us. So at this time, I'm going to let her present this program, and then we'll answer any questions afterwards.
Dr. Garza, before you begin, I don't know that the mic is on, because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Test.
That works.
A little better.
That
Doesn't work.
It does now, thank you.
Does it work now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Dr. Riolini.
Thank you, Dr. Garza. Thank you all for the opportunity to be with you and present this federal funding opportunity. My name is Jan Riolini. I'm a family physician by training, and I've been working in the field of youth development and teen pregnancy prevention for the last 10, 15 years. And even before that, really, I've always cared about this because I've always wanted that every young person in your community and my community have the same sort of choices in life and opportunities that I've had. So for me, it's personal. I feel in my heart that young people deserve to reach their potential, and that's what this is about. This opportunity is actually a grant for a study, a research study of big decisions, and it is about teen pregnancy prevention. There's several grants out right now. It's due the beginning of April, so the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, would be due by the end of March. So this is the meeting, I think, that we need to make a decision for your district. What we do at Healthy Futures is to honor young parents, but always to help young people know that that pathway with children so young is a steeper pathway. And that's important because I know that we do not want to exclude young parents. We want to bring them with us to healthy decisions for their future too. We're concerned about school dropout, about the health of the babies, about single parenthood, which is harder to be a parent and do all the things that you need to do to make your way in life. So often the dads are not involved, and that is hard on the dads and the children and the mom as well. Child abuse and neglect are more common because I think young parents are less able really to protect their children. They have less resources, less ability to deal with the stress. And poverty is closely connected to having children so early and dropping out of school. In Valverde County, the rates of teen birth are exceptionally high. 77 births for every 1,000 girls every year, 15 to 19, and that's almost 1 in 10, really, almost 10% every year. That's 2.6 times the national rate. So here in Val Verde County, it's an important issue and one that we'd like to help with. The funding opportunity is from the Federal Office of Adolescent Health. It's a 5-year grant, and you should have a folder with more information. Does everyone have that? Okay, great. We're applying, and as I mentioned, the grant's due in early April, and the awards will be announced July 1st. So the beginning of July, we'll know if we're awarded. And again, the memorandum of understanding is needed by the end of the month. Healthy Futures is a nonprofit organization. I'm a clinical faculty, so I still help medical students understand the role of physicians in the community. But mostly I'm taking care of a nonprofit in San Antonio where we do education and we help the community know what they can do to prevent teen pregnancy. We focus on prevention, so we can bring together people who would call themselves pro-life and others who would call themselves pro-choice, because we agree prevention is the thing that we need to do, and help our young people to wait to have sex, wait to have children if at all possible, and if they're not waiting, to be sure that they're able to protect themselves and avoid early pregnancy unless they're in a situation where that's what they want. So we have a lot of programs, and that's my beautiful staff who are much more beautiful than I am. We also have lots of interns who really help us keep in touch with young people very well. They're really exciting in the classroom. Big Decisions is Abstinence Plus, so it's very strong on abstinence, but it also talks about condoms and birth control. The lessons are interactive. We encourage youth both to wait to have sex, but also to know what they need to know if they do become sexually active, so that they are able to protect themselves. It conforms to Texas law and to your policy in the district. The project would be for 9th grade students, only with parent consent. It would be randomized by classes to one of 3 groups, and I'll explain those 3 groups in a moment. We'll do questionnaires before, just after, and 9 months later from the program to see how well the programs work, and we want to demonstrate that Big Decisions is effective. It's very popular around Texas, but this is the chance for us to really demonstrate what about it works. The teachers will be facilitating the programs, but the Healthy Future staff will help. We will support with training, technical assistance, and always our phone number is available in case of any questions. The first year is for planning and feedback. We want to find a way that it's good for the district, for the parents, for the youth in your community, in your district. So this is how the study would work. First, we get informed consent that parents would agree to have their children be part of this study, this understanding of Big Decisions, and then we would randomize by class, and youth would either be offered the Big Decisions basic curriculum, 10 lessons, or the enhanced curriculum with community service learning and an enhanced parent component. Or the third option is the Youth Voices. It's a youth development program where youth get to express in a facilitated situation about issues that concern them. The first year, as I mentioned, is a planning year. Years 2, 3, and 4 are to produce the programs and collect the data. Year 5 is to analyze the data and package the curriculum. And all 5 years, we would want to have coordinators in the district. Again, a pre-questionnaire program, then a post-questionnaire, and then a 9-month follow-up. So this is, I wish I could bring you a package that had no research in it, but this is what's available to us right now. What value is that to your district? It brings lots of resources, training, technical assistance. It brings a program that will help the students. It allows most of the students to take it now in the 9th grade, and later on, after we finish collecting the data, they can get any of those 3 programs that their parents want for them after the study data is collected. It will bring resources to the district, and you guys can help develop the program to truly meet the needs of young people in Texas and in smaller towns, in border areas, and for the youth that you serve, you can really help this meet their needs. So I really appreciate your time, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? Mr. Mesa?
I truly appreciate you coming before us and presenting this program, which I'm very much in favor. I guess my question pertains to lower grades, because we are in an area
Yes.
that we have a high rate of teenage pregnancies, and having been an educator in the middle school, we have, young girls getting pregnant at as early as 6th grade. And your program starts at 9th grade. Is there any program available that you have that starts at a lower grade?
Well, we have done this program at different grades, but this opportunity is to study in high school. So in our planning year, we can consider 8th grade, but that's much more difficult in terms of gathering data going forward, jumping from the 8th to the 9th grade. But that's something that we could consider. Our evaluator will not be happy, but we can keep her in line if need be. I think the 9th grade is really the place where we can do the best study to understand big decisions. And then once that's done, the school district will have everyone trained, you'll have the materials, you'll be able to offer it in whatever grade that you like. I think below 7th grade, this is probably a little too advanced, but people have used it in 7th grade as well.
Well, hopefully the first year when you gather information, you can look at those numbers. Anything that we can do to help these students graduate, I'm all for. And I know that that's a big area where we lose our students because, again, so many difficulties of childcare and all kinds of things that come into play once, a teenage girl becomes pregnant. So our hopes are that everyone graduates, but we realize that there are obstacles, but hopefully when you gather information, you can look at those numbers that come from the lower grades, and just for reference purposes.
And if we do entertain that, I know the our evaluator will want to know if the school district will help us to follow and be able to do the questionnaires later after they've changed schools from 8th grade to 9th grade. So that would be the thing that we'll need to work out in that planning year.
Thank you.
But thank you. I think you're right. I think we need to start early and talk often.
Thank you.
Mr. Chavita?
Thank you again, ma'am. When you're saying teachers will give the program, what teachers, what grade, where throughout the year, course?
Well, that's something that I think each district will work out, and Dr. Garza, Dr. Rios have some thoughts about how it would be best proposed here. Did you want to say?
Yes, Mr. Chavita, when we first got together, we discussed that, trying to figure out what would be the best course of action or best teachers that would do this. At this point, we have come to the conclusion that, still for debate, but it's going to be our PE teachers. And the reason is because we don't want to affect the other grade levels at 9th grade since they're being tested.
That was my concern.
And again, we would offer training and support, technical assistance. We have the best trainers that I know of who are working with us. I think that would be helpful.
Questions?
Again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yes. And you may have already, I'm going back through your paperwork again, you may have already said it. But what exactly are the project goals? I mean, is there like a target of decreased pregnancy within a certain age group, or what exactly are the goals?
Yes, the goals of big decisions are to reduce teen pregnancy and the rate of sexually transmitted infections, to help young people delay becoming sexually active and to help those who are sexually active to use effective birth control and to use condoms every time so they will reduce their risks.
So like, for example, your work in this district, part of that planning year would involve looking at that same data for this district historically, right? We have that data?
Of teenage pregnancy?
Yes.
We have, I think I've shared with the board data for the last 3 years that we were able to recover from the high school and the program they have. But beyond that, I am not aware of data that's available to us.
But Dr. Riolini did refer to the statistics for our county. That doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean
Correct.
they're our students, but they are county residents.
Exactly. There may be data, zip code data that are available. We did not find that in our research right now, but I know we can obtain that during our planning year to help us plan.
And this may be a question more for administration. In comparable services that we provide won't be stopped except in the instances of where this program is involved with the 3 groups, the randomized groups, correct? So it's not exclusive of, or it
No,
is?
it won't be exclusive of, she said, we will have to have parental involvement or parental permission to actually get a student involved in this. But we won't stop with what we're doing right now.
But the groups involved in this program, there's restrictions for their involvement in any similar program, right? That's the way I understand it?
That would be a research question. I think that's where you're going.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is using this program doesn't take off the table whatever other programs we're using.
Right.
Okay.
If I could make a comment about that, I think we would ask that the district, it's very important in the study that the students who are not randomized to the certain class not get the other intervention that we're offering.
Right,
That's
I think that's,
really essential. We are also asking districts not to offer teen pregnancy prevention programs during the high school years. There can be other things you do at middle school and so forth, but do you have a program right now that
that's
you're
my
offering?
question to administration. What do we do right now?
It is very minimal, sir. Very, very minimal. There is discussions, there's counseling presentations, but it's very minimal right now.
Minimal compared to this?
Yes.
So it really does sound like a program such as this, while it is helping the research, would definitely be beneficial since we don't have a very structured program in place now, as evidenced by our teenage pregnancy rates in the county.
The local involvement, a couple of the school districts, when I found something on their website, there was on one of the districts, there was an indication on a link or something about this program that a certain part of the curriculum had been taken out. So is that part of that planning process? Like if there's something in the curriculum that you provide that I guess a locally formed committee or however that happens objects to and want to leave that out, they can do that? Is that correct, how I read that on? I don't remember which website. I know I think it might have been San Antonio ISD or Northeast ISD.
Maybe Northeast, I think. They were fitting into their Healthy Lifestyles program, and they had some other things they wanted to do, bring in someone with HIV, for example. They wanted to do that, so they moved a little bit around. But yes, that's what the planning year is about. We have found that this is basically what parents want for their kids, so that's where it's coming from. And wanting to give young people what their parents want for them is what we are about.
And on your literature where you list the dozen or so districts where it's been used,
Yes.
have all of those districts showed, in terms of your goals, have they showed progress?
I think there is generally progress, but the data collection for those schools has not been very strong, I would say. We have anecdotal reports about how popular the curriculum is, how much they appreciate it, that the young people enjoy it, that teen pregnancy rates are down in many places. And SAISD, for example, would not agree to participate in the study because they didn't want anyone not to be able to get the full big decisions. So they had been using big decisions, and they really believe it's made a huge difference for them. The data that we have some initial study data from a number of different districts and implementations, primarily in San Antonio, and it shows improvement from pre-test to post-test, but there's no comparison group and very little, excuse me, behavioral data. So.
Other questions? Ms. Lozano?
Just one other comment. And it's also important to note that this was definitely supported by the SHAC.
Oh, that was, yeah,
Yes, that
that's
was
also-
unanimous at the SHAC.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
We're ready for a recommendation.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the memorandum of understanding between Healthy Futures of Texas and San Felipe del Rio CISD as presented, and allow Dr. Rios to sign the agreement and pay the invoice when due.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we're on item 11, can we just consider tabling 11B? That way we can skip over 11 altogether after this.
Okay, just for clarification, we're still here on agenda item 11. We just dispensed with agenda item 11A, but administration has just informed us that I guess they need more information or to review something. They're on agenda item 11B, so you're requesting that it be tabled?
Yes, sir, we want to move forward with the courses, but we need some more time to discuss when we introduce the weighted averages, GPAs of the courses. So we could use the next month to discuss it.
Okay, so I think what you're suggesting is that we table it to the next regular board meeting. Correct. Okay. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Overfelt has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. So agenda item 11B is tabled to the next regular board meeting. Okay, now we go back where we left off. We had dispensed with the consent agenda. And so now, as is the custom, on that consent agenda, there were a number of donations. Is there a trustee who would like to read the donation list?
Sure.
Mr. Overfelt, go ahead.
All right, donations for this month, the Del Rio Chamber of Commerce to the following groups: $250 to Del Rio High School Electrical Trades, Del Rio Chamber, $250 to the Del Rio High School Future Business Leaders of America, and $250 to the Del Rio High School Metal Trades. Del Rio High School Queens Softball Booster Club, $400 to the Del Rio High School Queens Softball. First in Texas, $2,700 to Del Rio Middle School Robotics. Joseph Roberts in the amount of $600 to Del Rio High School Metal Trades. Life Touch in the following amounts to the following schools: $766 to Buena Vista Elementary, $620 to Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary, $508 to North Heights Elementary, $340 to Ruben Chavita Elementary. Maxi Energy Company in the following amounts to the following schools: $500 to Irene C. Cardwell Elementary and $500 to Lamar Elementary. Target Take Charge of Education in the following amounts to the following schools: $47.39 to Del Rio High School, $31.05 to Ruben Chavita Elementary. Texas Athletic Productions, $850 to Del Rio High School Athletics. Walmart, on behalf of Tammy Bontuello, $250 to Del Rio Middle School Palm Squad. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Overfelt, and of course, thank you to all those individuals and organizations that donated to to the students of the district. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 9, citizens to be heard. No one signed up. Okay. Thought for sure somebody was coming. Okay. Well, we're really making good time. It's not even 7 o'clock and we're halfway through the agenda.
Let's not slow down.
Yeah, don't jinx it. It's good enough that I can't talk, so even better. All right, that brings us to agenda item 10, Administration A, consideration to approve the interpretation and implementation of board policy DEC local. Dr. Rios?
Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, approximately a year ago, we brought DC local to the board because the board asked us to consider the amount of money that we were paying for the days, the local days that the retired employees were selling back to the district. At that time, we worked with a small committee of board members, and we brought a recommendation. I believe that I visited specifically, it was Mr. Mesa and Mr. Chavira, if I remember correctly. They made a recommendation, and we increased the amount some.
That's a committee?
Well,
You spoke to 2 board members.
yes, but we agreed that those were the 2 board members I would speak to. So we brought a recommendation based on research that we did with other districts. At the time, we never considered what happens when an employee who qualifies for retirement passes away before they can actually submit their retirement or choose to retire, yet they qualified for retirement. I talked to our attorneys, your attorneys. We talked to TASB, and what TASB indicated is that most districts don't stipulate in their policy, although some do. Mr. Salinas did that research for us, but that others choose to write it in their policies and procedures. That employees who qualify for retirement, if they pass away before they retire but qualify for retirement, the local days sold back would be paid to the estate of the employee. This was brought up about 2 months ago. We chose, not to bring it to your approval before we had clear indication that this is clearly what the board's wishes are. That, in other words, we never intended not to pay the estate of a deceased employee. So we want to make sure that the board is in agreement with our recommendation, and that's why we want to bring it as a recommendation to you. In a separate item, I am providing that the board policy clearly state that we will pay it. But in the absence of that policy, I'd rather have confirmation from the board that you're okay with us moving forward and paying. We identified 6 employees who've passed away. And as of this week, now there's 70. So our condolences to the Salas family. She was a secretary with Student Services and just took everyone by surprise. So now there's 7 families. But we have a recommendation, but I'd like to make sure everyone's clear on what we're doing and answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments? We can start, I guess, from the far side. There's questions from Mr. Chavita.
No, I don't have any question. I just think that I'm glad this was brought up, and I'm glad that it is up to, came up today.
I just want to say it's the least that we can do for the employees that plans to retire and for whatever reason, they were not able to, but certainly this money belongs to her estate.
Ms. Lozano?
I would say the same thing. I definitely think it's the right thing to do, especially for employees who have been loyal and dedicated to the district for years.
What does the Texas Education Code say?
In reviewing this with our attorney, with your attorney, We didn't identify the Texas Education Code as addressing this. We did find in the administrative code,
In the government code,
but it
but
only,
that's for higher ed.
that's, right, and it
State
talks about
days.
state days. These are local days, so that's why it would be addressed in local policy. So between our attorneys and our staff, we couldn't identify anything. So that's why we went to TASB, and TASB said that that's how other districts handle it. They either write specific language, and they have language to recommend to us, but we've already worked with the school district's attorney to draft that language. And they also have language, if we choose not to do it, in the local policy and just do it as an admin reg. But that's the next item.
All right, so the research you did covered approximately 7 years, 6 employees in 7 years?
I'd have to ask Dr. McNamara the specific years. Well, this is as far back as she was able to identify deceased employees. I don't know how far back she actually went.
So it goes,
We went back, we found 20 employees in the Skyward system since the inception of Skyward, and we went all the way back to their deceased date of 2005.
okay, so about 10 years.
Yes, sir.
And none of those individuals had been paid.
Not in any records that we could find.
Okay.
We had payroll take a look at that. I was just saying, if you could go to the mic so we can hear.
Yes, Mr. Garabedian, in response to your question, my staff and payroll went back from 2005 to current, and those were the records in the system. We identified 20 deceased employees, and from those, payroll then cross-referenced that with the TRS system, and we identified 6, until, like Dr. Rios said, unfortunately, last Wednesday, we lost another staff member, so we added her to the list, because she was retirement eligible.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the administration's saying that it was always the intent to do this, but in 10 years, it was never done, right? Or no?
It wasn't in our policy to do that,
No, but no
I'm sorry.
payout was made.
not that I'm aware of. No, sir.
So how was it always the intent?
Again, I can't speak for previous administrations. I can just speak for what the rest of the state does. And I think that that's why we're bringing it to y'all today, because I don't believe that any member of this board intended to exclude anyone who passed away from collecting a benefit that we're making eligible to everybody else who retires. So, you know, we worked with the attorneys on the wording, Mr. Garabedian. But the message here is that I don't believe that anybody, any member of this board, or even the previous board, intended to exclude anyone who passed away. And that's why we're asking to vote to clarify whether it is the intent or not.
So assuming that it becomes policy and the estates are paid, will they be paid the same rate?
There will be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We're gonna say the same thing, we've talked about it
Okay.
already.
Yes, we have identified 4 out of the 7 that would be paid according to the policy prior to the board-approved policy indicating the formula change. And we've identified 3
All
that,
right, and that rate is how much?
the first rate is a calculation. It's a number of days times, there's a formula divided, times 20 divided by 20 as a denominator. And then the next one is half of their daily rate times up to a maximum of 45 days.
So the rate would be, in 4 instances, would be how much per day?
It depends on, it's a flat rate of $25 times the number of days that they had accrued at that time. So it could be over 45. As an example, I have somebody with 56 days.
Okay, so prior to 2014, it's $25 a day.
Correct.
After 2014, it's half the daily rate,
That's correct.
which is a whole lot more. Could be. Okay.
Could be depending on the number of days that they have.
Patty, the clarification is November 19, 2013.
2013,
2013.
That's when the change occurred.
from $25
Yes, sir.
daily rate
Right.
to half the daily rate.
Yes, sir.
Because the average teacher rate, for example, if you start at $40,000 is like $200 a day.
That's correct.
So, but prior to anyone in that list of 26 that have been identified, it's $25.
Right. Times the number of years they have in the district divided by 20.
Okay.
So,
Other questions? Ms. Lozano?
I do have one question. And the funding comes from, it wouldn't be any different than any other payout for retirement, correct?
Tiana County.
The funding for our retirement incentive, local retirement incentive, we do include in our budget. And in November 2013, we used prior year retirements to create an estimate. So we haven't reached that amount. And I believe the budget was around 150,000. Year to date, right now, we're at 25, I believe, or 24.
So
So
we
we
would be
did-
okay with what
we
we
did.
currently have planned?
Yes, we did set up a budget based on prior year retirements.
Thank you.
So prior to 2013, $25 a day. After 2013, half the daily rate.
November 19, 2013 on.
Yes.
Mr. Garabedian, it's a stark and sharp difference. And I want to thank Mr. Chavita and Mr. Mesa for actually bringing that to our attention then, so that we could do what we felt at the time in November 2013, that really was the right thing to do.
Other questions?
Yes.
Mr. Overfeld, no questions?
No questions, sir.
Okay. So you have a recommendation for 10A?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Obedient members of the board, it is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees declare that board policy DEC local was always intended to offer lump sum accrued local sick leave payments to the state of deceased employees as well as employees who are retiring.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motion. Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. All opposed? 1 opposed. Abstentions? 1 abstention. Motion carries. Brings us to agenda item 10B. Consideration to approve the second reading of the amendment of board policy DEC local. Dr. Rios?
Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, this policy, because it's in its second reading, would usually come under consent, but it didn't make any sense to bring it under consent in an earlier item and then bring the interpretation of the policy. So we're bringing DEC local as a second reading. If there's any questions, Mr. Salina or members of the cabinet can help me answer.
Questions on the actual wording policy?
I just said, it's a blue that, whatever we have in blue is the new
No.
added,
No, it's the red.
right?
It's on page, starts on page 74.
I think he's correct.
DEC or DCE?
The blue is the new part.
Then the blue is in the new part, okay.
But then it's red here.
The red are the changes. The blue is added
Okay.
language.
Now, this is where we are now. The first item asked the board to agree that that was always the intent. That's why I asked the questions about the historical record, which didn't add up, or the Texas Education Code, which wasn't there. So now, the discussion is to actually update the policy. This was under consent, that's something else. This is, you're on your own now.
Well, I know, but you went first, so.
This one.
Thank you.
questions about I guess the blue is additions or the blue is a change, right?
Yes, it's the major changes, although some of the red is also some changes if it wasn't stricken out.
Other questions? There's no questions. Recommendation.
The recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the second reading of the amendment to Board Policy DEC Local as presented.
We've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motion. Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? 2, 3. 4 in favor, all opposed, 1 opposed. Abstentions? 1 abstention. Motion carries. That brings us to agenda item 11. Actually, no. Took care of 11. Agenda item 12, there's nothing. Agenda item 13, business and finance. 13A, consideration to approve submittal of application for a TASB Risk Management Fund Loss Prevention Grant. Ms. English?
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, the members of the board. I am presenting to you the loss prevention grant. It's offered by the TASB Risk Management Fund every year. We've been applying for this grant since 2010, and we have received awards every year. This year, they are increasing the amount to $6,000, and I am requesting your approval to have Dr. Rios submit the application. Do you have any questions?
Is there any difference from the year previous?
The previous years, it was up to $4,000, and this year they have increased it to $6,000. And every year we do submit a different application so that, you know, we address different areas where we would like to improve our safety.
Okay. Other questions? Mr. Mesa?
I'm very familiar because you come every year with this intent, which is wonderful. I know one year they were having accidents, getting on top of things, and, you know, they weren't using proper equipment or, is there a certain intent for this application?
For this year, what I would like to submit is slip-resistant shoes for custodians and for the food service department personnel. If we do get this grant, and I hope we will, we would like to purchase it, you know, before the summer, so that when the custodians start stripping the floors and they, you know, walk on very slippery surfaces, you know, that we could provide that safety gear. In the past years, we did request, the grant that we submitted was for stepping stools for the teachers. Being in the classroom myself, I knew that it was very difficult for teachers to get hold of step ladders when they do bulletin boards or decorate their classrooms. And we did see teachers getting injured because they were climbing on tables or, you know, on chairs with wheels. So we're trying to find ways to keep them safe.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad.
Other questions? Okay, recommendation, I guess, if there's no questions.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the superintendent to sign and submit the application for TASB Risk Management Fund Loss Prevention Grant.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion. Mrs. Lozano has second. All in favor by a show of hands. Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 14, Human Resources and Student Services. A, consideration to approve the blended academy principal position and the revised administrative job classification listing. Dr. Patty.
Good evening, Mr. Garabini and members of the board and Dr. Rios. Agenda item 14A, consideration to approve the blended academy position. As listed in the agenda and in your packet, this is a position that we are requesting as a new position. However, we are converting an existing budgeted position, which is the Del Rio Freshman School Assistant position that currently is vacant, and use that funding source for this position, which is 199 local funds. We are also recommending a pay grade 5, which is the same level of the SGLC administrator. and the same number of days, which is 226. Are there any questions? We also, I'm sorry, we also, in your packet, included the job classification, the revision to the job classification to indicate the addition of the position in the 5A category.
Questions? So, is this was the one where it says conversion from,
Yes, sir, from the freshman assistant principal position. We have an extra budgeted position there that, at this time, administration is not going to fill. So we're going to,
there's currently one assistant principal at the freshman,
yes, sir.
but in terms of the budget, there was budget for 2 assistant principals, right?
That is correct.
So it just stayed on the books, and so we're taking that off.
Yes, sir. It'll just be a title change.
Okay. And this is, okay, that's fine. Other questions? No? Okay, the recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the blended academy principal position and the revised administrative classification listing be approved as presented this evening.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano has second. All in favor by a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. All opposed? 2 opposed. Motion carries. That brings us to agenda item 14B, consideration to approve the job description and evaluation forms for elementary instructional coach bilingual education. Dr. Patty?
Okay, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. The second HR agenda item, as you explained, is for the elementary instructional coach bilingual ed job description evaluation forms. Both of those documents were provided to you in your packet. Administration has reviewed that particular request, and as far as the position, Ms. Yannicani Valdez has identified some extra positions in our budget. Number 1, so there'll be no change in the budget with this request for this particular position, but right now we're just bringing the job description and evaluation. Also, Ms. Ide Garcia has been working with the ESL strategist to convert their titles in the very near future to bilingual instructional coaches. Thus, for our new bilingual centers, we will then be appropriately the positions allocated for these bilingual coaches. So we're converting some positions, title changes, so therefore there will not be a change in the budget, and we're also looking at our extra positions for funding sources.
Questions? Mr. Mesa?
Patty, we currently have 15 instructional coaches, correct?
I believe so, yes, sir. And this would be, yes, and those were at the campuses, and these here are to support the new bilingual academic centers.
And we could not transfer any of these 15 current instructional coaches into that position.
Dr. Rios?
Mr. Mesa, no, the answer is no, because as we're moving forward from part of this year on, our instructional coaches are serving in the capacity of instructional coaches and interventionists. Our goal this year is to provide more interventionists where students, where adults, certified teachers are working directly with the students in interventional models that we've studied from other districts. Part of the think tank was to provide instructional coaches for the centers. Now, as we consolidate the students that are in the beginner and intermediate level, the numbers that we've worked right now, that Ms. Valdez and Ms. Hernandez and Ms. Garcia have worked together along with some of the other curriculum coordinators, we've identified some positions that just by economies of scale and efficiencies will have extra. So the positions will be filled from these extra vacancies that will be created, as well as reclassifying the current strategist to instructional coaches. So at the end, when everything is said and done, we do not expect that we will necessarily add more money to the budget. but we will have more support for the students. And that's why we're bringing this recommendation today.
And the reason I ask these questions is because when we look at the FAST report, again, they indicate to us that we have way too many positions in the director, for example, areas. And then when we look at a list of possible positions to eliminate, to me, the first thing that comes up is we have too many instructional coaches. That's how I feel. That's my spill.
Aren't those teacher positions? Yes.
I'm sorry, what was Mr. Overfelt's question?
I was gonna say, aren't they teacher positions? Or they're not necessarily administrator positions? I thought they were coded as teacher.
That's correct, Mr. Overfeld.
They are.
They're teachers'
no.
positions assigned to the campuses.
Okay.
They're not administrators in any way, shape, or form. And as a matter of fact, if we go to any campus, you will find the instructional coaches since the beginning of the second semester working directly with students for a large part of their day.
And
Mr. Chavia?
when we say, how many coaches are we talking about?
Mr. In the new, for the think tank, I'm sorry, as the ideas that came from the think tank, we would have a bilingual instructional coach everywhere where we have a newcomer center. So that would be four, sir.
No, and the reason I brought up the director, for example, because in the FAST report, it does mention that, and there's an item coming soon after this one that does carry that title. And we're still adding more. And that's why I'm saying, couldn't you use one of those 15 into this position?
On a similar note, so a month or two ago, I don't remember when, we agreed to a TASB staffing analysis, right?
Yes, sir.
And the goal of the staffing analysis would be to clearly indicate where we're over or where we're under in terms of personnel? Yes or no?
That's correct.
That is correct.
So, have we gotten the results of that yet?
We received the preliminary study. He said he was going to work over the report over the spring break. We should be able to provide to y'all a hard copy of the report, and then Ms. Valdez and the rest of the cabinet today, we discussed flip-flopping the next two budget workshops so that we would do personnel first, and we can have that gentleman make a formal presentation to the board. It would be a lot easier if we waited until after that staffing study so that you could see the direction we're headed and it would be clear. However, we want to start the staff development for the new bilingual model as soon as possible. We're meeting with a potential staff developer tomorrow. So that's why we're bringing these now.
Ms. Lozano?
There will be 4 newcomer academies, right? Campuses, co-located with the current campuses that already have instructional coaches. So will there be 2 instructional coaches at those 4 academies?
Yes, ma'am. If you recall, a lot of the feedback that we get from the teachers at the campuses that are working with bilingual students is that they sit and they plan with the instructional coach, and then they come back and they have to plan again because bilingual, particularly when you're working with beginners and newcomers, it's different. And one instructional coach to plan for both bilingual and regular in as many subjects as the principals assign them to on the campuses doesn't do justice. And again, we also want to use the instructional coaches to provide interventions for the students. This year we started doing the second semester. Next year we definitely plan on that being part of their duties from the beginning of the year. So yes, ma'am.
We already have teacher vacancies. So when we continue to pull teachers out of the classroom, how can we have a win-win?
You're absolutely right, ma'am. But I would also submit that the vacancies at the elementary area where these coaches would be are, I would say, minimal, close to none. I would also remind the board that we're now starting to see the fruits of the EIP grant. Just last month, we reported that we had 4 teachers earn their bilingual certification through the EIP grant. So we're moving forward. I don't think that we're going to see any hiccups with this, particularly since we've identified 8 positions that we would be above and beyond once we do the redesign of the bilingual program with the newcomer academies.
Anything else? Mr. Chavita?
I just want to say that, I know it seems like a lot of coaches. Number one, we can't take from the other programs to fill in. Secondly, remember we talked about this program being behind. We'll never try to do the very best that we can possibly do. Now, I think we have an opportunity to help those students, those bilingual students. And if we are going to do the job that I think that this program is going to do, is going to accomplish, we need to do what we did for the other program. Put those coaches, get those teachers to work with them, and hopefully that at the end of next year, we can see the fruits of this personnel. Because either we're going to, remember, I think I mentioned, we just can't put a Band-Aid to it. I think we need to go, if we're going to make a change, we really need to provide every possible, all the personnel that we need.
Other questions? Ms. Lozano has another question,
Yes.
a comment or a question.
Was this a recommendation of the think tank
Yes.
for 4 instructional coaches?
Yes, remember, they asked for 1 to be at each campus, and like Dr. McNamara mentioned earlier, our 2 ESL strategists are going to serve as 2 of those coaches. So we
only
would
need
only
two.
need 2.
So we only need 2, not really 4.
Okay. The answer is yes. However, I want to be clear, because that leaves our secondary campuses also with a need for help with the bilingual program. We're counting on the 8 positions that Ms. Valdez identified, which is already more than what we need for the strategist. Their job description would change to that of an instructional coach. So I want to be clear that yes, it'll still be 4. Okay, even though right off the bat we're going to use the strategist in that dual position, our goal is to provide adequate support for our ESL program as well at the secondary level. But it's not any added money to the budget. We have identified at least 8 positions, but it's still 4 positions.
But as far as the teacher vacancies,
Correct.
it would only be 2.
Other questions? We ready for the recommendation? Ready for a recommendation? Okay, give us a recommendation.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the job description evaluation forms for the elementary instructional coach positions, bilingual education, be approved as presented this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. Is there a second? Mrs. Lozano has second. All in favor by show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. All opposed? 2 opposed. Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 14C. Consideration to approve the job description, evaluation forms for administrative director. Dr. Patty?
All right. As in the previous item, this item also was provided to you in your board packet for review, which included the administrative director job description and evaluation. At this time, if you have any questions, Dr. Rios?
Dr. Rios?
And I really wish that time would have presented itself so I could have had individual conversations. But as we look forward to the coming school year, and particularly the summer, our idea, our intent is to do some reorganization that would facilitate having some things done and accomplished that haven't been accomplished. For example, I've talked to the board about how far behind we are in updating our policies, reviewing them, our procedures, having somebody work with grants, the application of the grants. And what we want to do is we want to create the ability for some reorganization where somebody will be handling these specific positions. We are not, and we'll review this again at budget time, we are not adding a single director to our budget. This would just give us the opportunity to reorganize within that pay grade, shift some duties from one department to the other, but it's clearly and only designed to allow for some reorganization, not for an additional director position.
Questions?
Question.
Dr. Keys?
Well, any of these positions require certification?
Yes, mid-management or principal certification.
Okay, so they're equal with the other.
Yes, sir,
certificate.
to the other directors.
Other questions? Can you go back to how we're not adding a position, a director position, yet we are approving the job description evaluation forms? So we're not adding it because it's on the books financially, even though it's not currently filled?
No, sir. No. Because it involves personnel and reorganization, I don't feel comfortable discussing it, but if we could just, if I could say, I'm gonna take some of Josh's duties and give them to Ms. Haynes and some to myself, and that's gonna free up Mr. Josh with no duties, so that now Mr. Overfelt will be the administrative director. That's all I'm talking about. That's what I mean by.
Okay.
And again, it gives us the ability to reorganize and take care of some items that we haven't been taking care of that need to be addressed.
Ms. Lozano?
So then soon, we should see the change of the job description for the person that you're taking those duties from.
Absolutely, ma'am.
All right.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
clarifying, because that kind of leaves Josh without anything to do.
No, we're gonna find.
And we wouldn't want that. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? We're ready for a recommendation for agenda item 14C. Okay, the recommendation.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the job description and evaluation forms for the administrative director be approved as presented this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor, all opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed, motion carries. Agenda item 14D, consideration to approve employee job description and evaluation forms. Dr. Patton?
Mr. Gary and members of the board and Dr. Rios. As we started last month in HR and working with our directors, this evening we're asking for your approval for the following 3 departments. The athletics department, which these job descriptions were written and reviewed by Mr. Rick Smith, Coach Smith. The CTE department, Roger Gonzalez has reviewed these job descriptions and made the appropriate changes. And also Dr. Aguirre with the special ed department. These are the job descriptions that each of these directors have reviewed for your consideration this evening, and they were provided to you in the packet in the large brown manila folder for review. So if you have any questions, I believe everyone's here this evening, and they're prepared to answer.
I just have a real general question, because I went through all of them, and am I correct? Some of them didn't have any changes.
That's correct.
Then,
And I just put them all in there so you would see them.
And then a couple of them just had like,
Very minimal changes.
yeah, like who they reported to.
Yes, sir.
They only counted like maybe 2 or 3 that actually had anything of substance.
That is correct.
Just want to make sure.
And we're just going through a comprehensive review of every single one of them and making sure our directors have an opportunity to review and edit as needed.
Other question? Mr. Mesa?
I have a question for Dr. Rios. Did you find out if there's still some that will be coming later on?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mesa, we brought some last month. There's some more this month, and probably for the next 2 or 3 months, we'll continue to bring them until they've all been reviewed. I know that you specifically asked about a group of individuals, and I can't promise you that's next, but that's definitely one of the next groups that we're bringing forward.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Lozano?
I said I wasn't going to ask questions, but I do have one that I think really does need to be addressed, and I think it's just maybe an oversight. And this is Dr. Aguirre. I noticed that the speech language pathologist has a / then assistant. However, the PT and OT doesn't have that / assistant, but the way it's written, it makes it sound like you can hire a PT that's only a PTA and an OT that.
It's either or, so we can look at it again.
Right, I just think it needs to be clarified
Yes.
to state
It's either
or.
We don't always have the opportunity to hire
Hire PTs or OTs.
a full-time PT and right now we currently have a PTA. And so it's either or. In the past, we've had OTs, certified OTRs.
But the job descriptions for a PT, PTA, OT, OTA
Right,
should be very different.
right.
Because a PTA, an OTA cannot assess a student.
And I guess that is in the qualifications. Yes, we added that in the qualifications, but we can change it in the job description at the title.
I think it needs to have a separate,
Right,
just to protect you.
we'll do that.
Thank you.
Will we just pull that one from the group?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think the speech looks like it's right.
Speech is okay, right. It's the occupational
It's in
and the
title. It's
physical.
the title.
We can bring those next month.
Thank you.
Other questions for agenda item 14D?
I'm sorry.
Dr. Rios?
If it's just the title, can we just present it with the changes as discussed right now, and that way we don't have to bring it back?
It can't be just the title, because the job description is totally different and should be different for
Okay.
a PT and a PTA, OT,
Bring
and
it
an
back.
OTA.
Okay, then
Yep.
we'll pull it all together.
Thank you.
Those two.
Okay. Other questions? No? Recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the employee job description evaluation forms be approved this evening as presented to include the athletics department, the director of athletics, the head athletic trainer, the secretary for athletics, the assistant athletic trainer, the middle school and high school athletic coordinators, and the CTE department, the director of CTE, the counselor, the computer technician, the counselor's secretary, and the secretary to the director of CTE. And the special ed department, special ed director, behavioral specialist, educational diagnostician coordinator, LSSP appraisal coordinator, speech language pathologist coordinator, the counselor, the educational diagnostician. We will strike the licensed physical therapist as well as the occupational therapist, the speech language pathologist assistant, the deaf ed aide, the assistive technology case management clerk, records clerk, the special ed and 504 dyslexia clerk, the SIRS clerk, PEAMS secretary, and the special ed financial analyst.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation and all of the items included. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands. Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, it is now 7:35 PM, March 23rd, 2015. The Board of Trustees will recess this open session and convene the...
We have one more.
Oh, we do?
I think
Yes.
maybe your agenda book,
E.
you may have the old agenda in political
Oh,
website.
so we,
There's one more. There it is. For dental, for Texas
On
Health
the-
and Human Services.
On the news.
where?
It's a new one.
I went to before posting, I know.
So posted is not the one you have in your book.
Okay, so what was posted is not what's in the binder. That's what
There
you're
was
saying.
one more added, right before we posted.
Okay, all right. Our mistake. For everybody's clarification, scratch my last comments, we're not in closed session yet. So, and just to be crystal clear, what was posted on the door and on the website includes this item.
Yes.
Okay, even though it was not in our packet. Everybody understand? Okay. All right, so agenda item 14E, consideration to approve the data use agreement with Texas Health and Human Services Enterprise for participation in preventive dental services program with Texas Health and Human Services. Mr. Valdez. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The San Felipe Del Rio CISD administration has received an agreement from Texas Health and Human Services Oral Health Program requesting to execute the attached data usage agreement for its contracts under which DSHS provides give access to or transmits confidential information, CI, to a contractor. The memorandum of understanding for dental services with the State Health Services, the Texas Department of State Health Services, was previously approved by the Board of Trustees on July 21st, 2014. Any questions?
Questions?
So,
Marissa?
so Mr. Valdez, this is mainly a continuation from
Yes,
what
it
we're
is.
doing.
Yes, it is. It's basically to approve the way the state communicates with our district as far as the data.
Other questions? And there's nothing of substance different from the last year.
Sir, there isn't.
There's no questions or recommendation?
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees authorize Dr. Carlos Rios, Superintendent of Schools, to sign the data use agreement with Texas Health and Human Services Enterprise for the participation in the Preventive Dental Services Program with Texas Health and Human Services.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano's motion, Mr. Chavita is second. All in favor by show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we're on 16, closed session. Okay, now we are on agenda item 16, closed session. Okay, it is now 7:39 PM, March 23rd, 2015, and the Board of Trustees will recess this open session and convene a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D&E. And we're able to do this under Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084, and 551.087. Specifically tonight, item A, pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel to hear complaints against personnel, one being discussion of personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations, reassignments. And two, discussion of salary adjustments to include, but not limited to the following justifications: service credit, master's degree, and stipends. And three, discussion of teacher and professional contracts. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in open session. We're now in closed session. Okay, it is 8:20 PM, March 23rd, 2015, and the Board of Trustees will now reconvene in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D&E. No action was taken in closed session. So, now that we are reconvened to open session, that brings us to agenda item 17. The first item is A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Dr. Patty?
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration that the following applicants be hired in our district for the following positions: Norma Martinez, kindergarten teacher at Garfield Elementary; Ms. Vivanco Nyland, third grade teacher, Dr. Famin Calderon. Myra Tana, second grade teacher at Lamar Elementary, and Mr. David Hernandez, art teacher at Del Rio High School.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands. Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item 17B, consideration of approved salary adjustments to include the following justifications: service credit, master's degree stipend. Dr. Patty?
Yes, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. It is the recommendation of the administration that the salary adjustments to include the following types of changes: bilingual stipend, athletic stipends, ESL stipends, and sick leave payouts be approved as presented in closed executive session.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. All opposed, 1 opposed. Abstentions, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Agenda item 17C, consideration to approve teacher and professional contracts. Dr. Patty?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. It is a recommendation of the administration that the School Board of Trustees approve the teacher and professional contracts as presented in closed executive session.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands. Unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you.
There is nothing under agenda item 18, so that brings us to 19. There is no further business before the board. I think it's time to go home. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll let somebody else have it tonight.
Dr.
There we
Keys'
go.
motion, Ms. Haynes' second. All in favor by a show of hands. Unanimous. Motion carries. We are adjourned.